and welcome to today's episode. My name is Tom Rolley for System.io.dev. I want to look at the hidden trap in business success. And you may well recognize this, that in the early days of business, things were pretty good. Things are exciting. There are problems to be solved. There are difficulties to be overcome. That somehow, though, you manage to get it together enough to begin selling and delivering, and hopefully in that experience started to bring on more team members. And there was an experience of managing these people, lining them up, saying, hey, this is where we're going. This is what our target is. This is what you're going to do this week. And this is what you're going to do this week. And this drive to push the business forward. And hopefully in that experience, you perhaps trialed and errored a bunch of things, perhaps in your fulfillment, in the actual product itself. You found one that worked. Perhaps around your sales and your advertising, you looked at the funnel. How's your sales process looking? How did the ads run into that? And you got that on point. And that your team was building, that there might have been 3, 4, 5 people. And there was perhaps even a sense of alignment, of mission, of progressing forward to targets that were obvious. And in that experience, there is a hidden trap. And you may well recognize this. Hopefully you hit it and saw it early enough not to just continue on past it. And that problem is, how do you manage a team beyond a certain number of people? And the generally accepted number of a team that begins to fragment, begins to have miscommunication, begins to struggle to know what other people are doing is around 5 to 7 people. And beyond that, it can get very difficult very quickly. And suddenly what was working up to a certain level of success becomes a trap, becomes a difficulty. And the problem is that at that stage, things are spinning. There's momentum. There's things to be done. It's very difficult to actually get any time to think about what is the problem, let alone what is the solution. So let's say that there is this 5 to 7 team number. Perhaps one way of doing it would be to, instead of having 5 team members or 6 team members, rather make them the leaders of more teams. So there were 6 team leaders that you consulted with as the business owner, and each of those team leaders then had their 5 or 6. And you might be able to get that, what's that, about 36, team of 36, 37 with you. But there are significant risks in this. To pull this off, you're really hoping that essentially each of those parts of your teams, parts of your business operating as teams, don't really have too much to do with each other. Because as soon as you start to have interaction between those teams, now you've got the same problem but magnified. And so this is potentially one solution. You had very siloed teams and you just operated with the team leaders. But most businesses aren't in that situation. Like, sales has got to talk to fulfillment, and sales has also got to talk to marketing and advertising. Everyone's got to get paid, and all those people need to get speaking to HR or payroll. There is a very unlikely chance that a business can just run as a silo. Perhaps you could have fulfillment teams, and they just get told what to do. If you were running a cleaning business, you're like, here, cleaner A, cleaner B, cleaner C, or potentially in legal services as well, where a particular lawyer takes on a job and they work through that job, and there's not a lot of interaction outside of completing that job. But in most businesses, the teams, the people need to communicate. And once you hit that 5 to 7 team limit, then it starts to break down. So what does this mean for you? Like, why is this important at all? Well, I want you to recognize that the stress and the challenge that you take on as the business owner, as the entrepreneur, it is significant in itself. Like, you're the one taking the risk. You're choosing where to go, where you're setting the targets, you're communicating that to your team, you're troubleshooting problems. And if then you're also the source of how to do everything, then this means that you're going to spend all of your time running your team, managing your team, telling them what to do, troubleshooting the problems that arise. And this means you have very limited time to actually do any of those other parts of your role as the entrepreneur. Does this sound familiar at all? Do you recognize that this is where you are? Perhaps you're too early in this journey. You're like, dude, whatever. We'll just keep pushing on and building the team and we will not run into this problem. Well, let's see how it goes. It had happened to me, and I was so challenged by it that I refused to go again in business until I was like, how does this work? So I worked with just one VA, just like, okay, until I had one thing on point, and that is managing processes instead of people. Manage processes, not people. If this is something that interests you, what I want you to do is to go over to systemio.dev, go and enter your name and your email there to watch the training around the problem that you face and how to solve it. All right, thanks so much for joining in today. Appreciate your interaction and your learning around this problem. It is a difficult and yet crucial problem to resolve as an entrepreneur. All right, look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we continue this journey into the problems that you face as an entrepreneur with a growing and successful business. See you then.